All right. Hi, everyone. We're going to do posterior axial muscles. This is part 3 of the axial muscles portion. All right, so going into it, we have the erector spinae group to start us off. Remember, this is our I love spaghetti group going from lateral to medial, and these are the 3 muscles in the back. And so for all of these, they're playing a huge role in posture, just keeping your, back up straight as you're walking around with great posture. I know all of you are. And you're going to see this phrase anti-gravity muscle multiple times for this erector spinae group. These two terms, erector spinae and anti-gravity muscle, are interchangeable. So either or. As long as you remember that these are the muscles that help you like stand up, sit up straight, all of that. Really cool stuff. The first one we're going to cover is the iliocostalis muscle. And so this one is the most lateral of that erector spinae set. The unilateral action, remember unilateral means that only one side is going to be contracting at a time. And this is going to help with lateral flexion, right? So just like pulling your trunk, kind of decreasing that angle at the trunk. And the extension action for that unilateral contraction is going to be extension of the vertebral column. So kind of coming in to basic anatomical position. It also helps in depression of the ribs. Okay, and then we'll see this again for the longissimus. Unilateral actions are going to be lateral flexion of that vertebral column, as well as this new one, ipsilateral rotation of the head. So whatever side is contracting, the head is going to be moving in that direction of the muscle. And then we have here bilateral. Remember, this prefix here, bi, means 2. So when both muscles are contracting, it's going to cause extension of that vertebral column and extension of the head. So just sitting, like standing straight, and then also head kind of straight, just like forward. The longissimus contracting will, both sides of the longissimus contracting will cause that. This here is also going to depress the ribs, and once again, that's helpful for posture. Next up, we have spinalis or spinalis. This one is also a part of the erector spinae group. It is a unilateral, unilateral actions are going to be that lateral flexion yet again, and then also extension of the vertebral column when both parts of the spinalis are contracting. All right, moving on, we have the semispinalis. And now this one here, we see the semispinalis capitis. It's a huge group of muscles, but we're just gonna, here's the APR image of this one. And so here, we're gonna see contralateral rotation. When one side of this muscle contracts, it's gonna make your head move in kind of the opposite direction, or your neck move in the opposite direction. Versus bilateral action, so both the semispinalis muscles contract, that's going to lead to extension of the head and neck. And remember, extension of the head and neck is achieved when you're just looking straight in anatomical position. All right, sweet. So now we have the serratus posterior and serratus posterior superior and serratus posterior inferior. Now this is a set of, serratus posterior is a set with 2 kind of muscle groups. So we'll cover the first one. Serratus posterior superior originates up at the nuchal ligament of the neck. So nuchal just means neck, like going all the way back to our anatomical terms. And so there, the nuchal ligament would be somewhere kind of along the posterior neck region, as well as originating at the spinous processes of the last cervical vertebrae, C7, up to T3. And it inserts down at ribs 2 through 5 along their superior borders. And what it's going to help with is just elevation of these ribs 2 through 5. All right, and then next up we have serratus posterior inferior. Now with this one, it originates at the spinous, at the the thoracic and lumbar vertebrae. And so here we are, right, kind of the end of the thoracic vertebrae and the beginning of the lumbar vertebrae is where it originates. And it's going to insert along kind of the ribs at the very bottom of the rib cage. And what it does is it's going to help depress those ribs. So it's really nice and kind of intuitive, right? Wherever they're inserting, those are what they're depressing or elevating. So serratus posterior, superior, and inferior. Next up, we have the rhomboids group. This is also a set of 2 muscles. And so this first one, rhombus minor, this one is going to help retract the scapula and fix the scapula. And so remember, retracting the scapula, protraction is sliding stuff forward, retraction is going to be bringing the scapula back. And it's also going to fix the scapula. Okay, anyway, well, let's move. And then we have rhombus minor. Whoa, did I say the wrong thing? Sorry. This one is rhombus minor. I'm so sorry. And so just note, right, this, like, as usual, the rhombus minor is usually more superior to the major, which we'll cover right now. Oh, my bad. I'm sorry. All right, so now rhombus major. This one is going to be retracting the scapula as well, right? So once again, that's sliding backward moving, as well as bracing the shoulder, all of the steps that go into retracting the scapula. Next up, we have the levator scapulae. And for this one, we don't even have to look at, well, we will look at the actions, but really the name is playing crucial roles in telling you about the action here, right? Like levator, what does that kind of remind you of? Right, things like levitate, like, you know, that kind of rising up action. And then what about here? What bone does this remind you of? Right, the scapula. And so, right, this is a muscle that's going to help elevate the scapula. And so we see here, boom, here's the action. It's going to elevate the scapula if the cervical vertebrae are fixed. And then if the scapula is fixed and in place, it's going to help with lateral flexion of the neck, right? So any kind of movement along the sides. Oh, let me move out the way so that you guys can see the muscle, right? And here it is. My apologies, right? So it's a muscle kind of tucked in right near that rhomboids group. All right, let's keep moving. Now we have trapezius. Oh, I love this muscle. It's a huge back muscle, spindle shaped. And just note, right, we have a lot of origins here. Right, the external occipital protuberance, which is a kind of like bony, rough part of the bone. We have the medial 1/3 of the superior nuchal line, right, that kind of nuchal ligament sitting at the posterior part of the neck. We also have the spinous processes of the vertebrae T1 through T12. And so if you just look, like basically all of the thoracic vertebrae, yeah, all of the thoracic vertebrae, trapezius is covering them, or originating from them. And so the insertion is going to be the acromion and spine of scapula, right? So going out this way, as well as the lateral 1/3 of the clavicle, which is seen on the anterior side, but just along this kind of axis here. And so once again, we see a lot of origins and a lot of insertions. So, you know, once again, like I say, pick your flavor. You get to choose which ones you want as long as you memorize like at least 2. Practical. Now here, actions, it's going to help stabilize that scapula and shoulder during those arm movements, and also elevate and depress the shoulder and rotate and retract the scapula. So it's doing it has a whole lot of range of motion just because of how big it is and just how many insertion points it has. Next up, we have the latissimus dorsi. Now this one here, it's nice. You don't have to know origin and insertion for this one, but just note that adduction of the shoulder, extension of the shoulder, and medial rotation of the shoulder is taking place here. And just to remind ourselves, right? So what is adduction of the shoulder? And it's going to be moving towards that midline, extension of the shoulder, right? So for an anatomical position where we are right now, this kind of base starting form is our shoulders are in extension, and then medial rotation of the shoulder, right? So pulling towards that midline, medial rotation. So latissimus dorsi is also another huge muscle here in the back. Yeah. Very, very cool stuff. And so now we're going to move on to the rotator cuff group. Just note that this is a part of appendicular muscles, but what I really want you guys to take out of this set is that all of these muscles here in the rotator cuff group are going to move on to produce circumduction of the shoulder. So keep that in mind as we continue.